Aaron, we just did one of the most rigorous methodological studies comparing a nationally representative sample, which we randomly assigned to a survey or an AI moderated interview. So of course, for the AI moderated interview, we had to partner with you all.
Of course.
And we're going to be sharing the results for the first time before we publish the study this week at Quirk. So what we did is, for the first time, we randomly assigned respondents to be in one or two of these research modes. And then what we're going to do is present the results of how the answers differed, and particularly how the people who participated in each one differed. One thing that surprised me was, and Verasight, we wanted to see how did the people who take the survey compare to the people who take the AI moderated interview. So first up was we looked at demographics. And these are measurable demographics. And what we found, which was quite comforting to us, was respondents who complete each mode look similar in terms of observed demographics. So if you had asked me to hypothesize before the experiment, I might have said the AI moderated interview is going to have a lot more young people who complete the mode than a traditional, older people are going to be much less likely to complete it. But we didn't find that to be the case. If you look at age, here we're looking at age and income, but in the paper we'll look across all observed demographics. It tends to be really similar without strong statistical differences. So the key, I think it's important to note, if you start with a representative sample from the beginning, the end result, regardless of which mode, can still be representative. Where we did see differences, which isn't totally shocking, is what are people's views towards AI. So if you look at people who use AI at least monthly or who are comfortable using AI tools, you'll see that if you complete an AI moderated interview, you tend to use AI more and you tend to be more comfortable using AI tools. So it's really important to think through, okay, is this something that's correlated with my research? For example, if I'm studying comfort with AI tools, I want to be careful of the methodology I choose. Similarly, this extends to AI attitudes. If you complete a traditional survey versus an AI moderated interview, you might be more concerned about AI taking people's jobs, for instance. So demographics, very similar. When we look at attitudes towards AI, some differences. But again, this is to be predicted, really, because there are differences in any mode. And this is just a new mode that we're applying rigor to. Aaron, I will turn it over to you to dive into some of the additional results we found.
Yeah. So this is, he's letting me show off some things about AI moderated research here. But what was really interesting, and I think somewhat not surprising to me, having gotten to front seat to this, but the fact that folks actually rate the experience of AI moderated research very highly. And I think a survey is easy, and I think people feel that sense of click, 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 I can get it done quickly. And I think an AI moderated interview, it reacts to them, it responds to them. And so I think as he mentioned, you see high completion rates once they start an interview, very much because of that kind of a positive experience, that positive sentiment. And so the ease of completing, the amount of follow-ups, the overall experience, were all rated quite highly. But I think the most interesting part is the question at the bottom: did AI make people feel more or less honest than a standard survey? And actually, 35% of folks expressed that they felt that they were able to be more honest. And this is all of our jobs, right? We're trying to get to ground truth. We're trying to get to as much honesty as possible. And I think it's really interesting that it's not just, you can kind of imagine some observed behavior being more honesty, but the fact that it was expressed behavior, that people actually were able to articulate that, was super interesting. And so I think 4%, I guess, felt less honest, but it's interesting to see that 61 the same and 35 even more. And then this is, I think, where AI moderated really shines, right? This is where, so this is the comparative of how many words did they say in a typical answer. And in a survey open-end, that was 5, right? And in an AI interview, it was 71. Now, some of this is about the probing. Some of it is about being able to speak instead of type, right? Some of it is about the kind of engagement throughout the interview and feeling more open. But there is a kind of combination of things. And this is why I think this entire category exists now, right? Is to get that level of depth. This is a good example of On the left, and this is of course not the same person because everybody was split between the two audiences, but on the left you can see this is how somebody answered the open end about the economy, right? And then on the right side, you can see it's a back and forth, right? And you can see the respondent shared really 2 entire paragraphs, whereas the open end was less than a sentence. And I think that's pretty typical of the kind of response you're getting. And this is where I think this is, it's interesting to compare it to a survey. It is, in many ways, looks a lot like you might see in an interview, might see in a transcript in a qualitative method. And so this is very much that overlap.
So just a few initial recommendations and learnings, just to summarize this a bit. So the first aspect that we think is important, really for any research you do, is just to make sure that you start with a representative population of the audience that you're trying to study, whether it's national consumers, whether it's users of a particular product, whether it's physicians. You want to make sure the sample is rigorously recruited and representative. And this can be in 2 ways. It could be first on observed demographics that we talked about, profile ahead of time, make sure to draw a random sample. But then you can also build in sampling strategies to adjust for any potential differences. So for example, if we know ahead of time people are a little more weary of AI, we can offer them a higher incentive for doing the AI moderated interviews. We can build survey weights on the back end. So understanding how people compare at the baseline then gives you fuel to make differences. Second is just to understand mode effects and take that into consideration whenever you're building a research methodology. None of these suggestions apply just to this experiment. So for example, if you're studying AI adoption or AI hesitancy, you want to be careful of just looking at data from who took an AI moderated interview, or you want to correct for it what I was saying earlier, ask people ahead of time, are you nervous to use AI? Teach them about the process, that their data is going to be private, why they should trust it, etc.
And I'll cover the bottom 2, I think. So number 3, like at the beginning when we talk about completion rates, this is the thing to think about, right? So if you're going to send it to 1,000 people, what percentage are going to actually start the AI interview and what percentage are going to start the survey? And I think there's, like I always like to say, AI moderated research is not one thing. Right? It is many things. It can be text-based, it can be audio-based, it can be video-based, it can have screen share, it can be concept testing. All sorts of things are possible. And then it can be framed in a lot of different ways. We like to, if you're going to blast it out to, let's just say, a customer list, right? So you really want to optimize those response rates, unlike maybe for a panel where you're only going to pay for whoever joins. You want to talk about, like, this is a conversational survey. And by the way, I'm Aaron, I'm the researcher, and I'm going to actually review it, right? And like being able to create a sense of more of that value up front makes a lot of sense. And so there's lots of, you can also obviously do things with incentives, right? We get a lot of questions about, is an AI moderated research, is that 20-minute cost the same per participant as a 20-minute survey? And my starting point has always been, it's roughly the same dollars per minute, it's their time, right? And if the time's the same, then it is what it is. But if you are asking for video, which is probably the vast majority of the work that folks do on Outset, there is a little something more. You have to be in a place where you can go on video, and so maybe there's a premium that you have to think about with with that session. No, it's probably not a 3x premium, but maybe a 50% premium. And so that is something we think about. And panels, maybe somewhere in the room here, are also thinking about this and building their own algorithms around how to price. So these are ways that you can think about how you get completion. End of the day, of course, you're only going to wind up paying for those who complete it. So it's often a matter of just numbers and how fast. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's
we missed number 4.
Oh, how could I miss number 4? The most important. Oh, unbelievable.
Number 4 was a gimme, but
forgive me.
Yes. I think to go back to that point of it was 14 times more words were said, right? 14 times more depth. And there are use cases where that is not important, and great. Like then you don't need to change your methodology, right? I think that makes sense. But in a lot of cases, either you're running a survey and you want some depth to complement it and be able to tag and segment with that, or maybe you're running a mixed methods. Like there is a lot of reason to build in that to gather that depth along with the scale of a survey. So that's number 4.
Perfect, love it. So a few we want to open it up to questions. Few quick notes. So first, if you scan that QR code, you can add a question to our next national survey, and you'll get data from 1,000 respondents, totally for free. You'll also be entered to win a bottle of Poppy, which we don't want to fly home with. So
She's holding
you
it
can
up back
drink
there,
it,
yes.
share it with us, or sell it. Hopefully, share it with us. And then if you do that, we'll also invite you to a cool event Outset is hosting in San Francisco that they invited us to. Aaron, you want to share a little on that?
Yes, so we have we're hosting our own research conference / festival where we have amazing speakers from places like Anthropic and Microsoft, and it's very, a lot of interesting tech stuff. And we'll also have a musical guest that you've probably heard of, but we're not sharing yet.
It's not me, don't worry.
Yes, it's not me either. So we'll be in San Francisco September 24th.
And when we open it up for questions, we'd also love your suggestions for future research. Whether Aaron likes it or not, I've signed him up to do several more studies of a similar caliber. So, we want to hear your ideas of how would you change the experimental design? What else would you be interested in testing? Given how rapidly this field is changing, we don't think the methods research has necessarily kept up with that pace. And so Outset and Verasight are committed to providing that methodology research. So everyone in this room, when we open it up for questions, share your thoughts and ideas of what else we should try. So with that, let's open up the floor.
Take the first one.
So on the first one, we saw no differences related to gender. We also looked at race, education level, region of the country, also no differences. So sort of that demographic comparison not looking different held throughout.
On the thematic, so we've, you could also speak to this data if you look, but in general, what we see is like similar themes, right? So similar thematic areas, but at a greater level of depth. So the economy being, a theme of someone's concern, and then what about the economy? And so you get all the sub-themes that wind up driving that a higher level theme. In open ends, we just don't see much of that. You don't see a lot of unpacking the kind of underlying sub-themes.
And just some anecdotes from some of the political research we do and media research we do. The economy can mean so many different things. So if you say the economy is the top concern and then you drill into it and the respondent says it's because of higher oil prices related to foreign policy, if it was just a multiple choice question, they might have said the economy or foreign policy. So being able to know, okay, when you say the economy, is it related to oil, which could be related to foreign policy? Is it related to being scared AI is going to take our jobs? So being able to break down, okay, what does any given category mean has been very helpful for our research.
I'm sure I have theories on that. So not from this data. I don't think we necessarily collected the why on that.
Right.
But the theories is, so you were talking more. So we already saw there's more. So if you're talking more, then you're probably going to share more, and sharing more is in some ways being more honest. So I think some of it is just the conversational nature of it. You are just unpacking more. But I think the other dynamic is, we internally call it the confessional booth effect, right? Where the fact that you are not face-to-face with another person. And we actually did our own study on this about a year ago. What people describe is a sense, there's kind of a couple effects when there's another person there. There's a social desirability bias where I want to appear as a person who XYZ, who believes these things or does these things. And so I am kind of shaping my own answers to be a little bit, without even thinking about it, to be the way I want to appear. The other one is a sense that the moderator wants me to answer it a certain way. And I'm sure even the best moderators in the world, that sometimes you're going to get participants who want to please you, and that's just natural human instinct. And so I think for those reasons, we see people have this sense of openness because there's no one there. And it's I once saw an answer described it. It was it's like recording a voice note on my iPhone. And so when you record a voice note, you just talk, and there's no sense of how I have to, sound or anything like that. And so I think that's certainly my theories and what we've seen anecdotally. Yeah, so I've seen that. I think some of the big survey providers have come out with an AI probe. I think that I mean, that is awesome. That is in the right direction. That is effectively saying, can we use our technology to react to what someone says in real time to get more? And I think it's really powerful. I think the challenge is if that's where you stop, right? If it really is just about a probe, we are still in a very text-based world that is still not optimized for people talking and thinking out loud. There's not a lot of conversational kind of coherence throughout. Right? Even being able to, when asking a question, say, thank you so much for sharing that. For this next, like, even that little bit creates a sense of conversation. And then, of course, there's like most of the work we do is multimodal. So people are sharing their screens and their videos and their living rooms, and it is a much more kind of in-depth experience. And so, of course, you're going to lose that.
And I think sort of future research is really going to test the scale. So here we tested two extremes, the survey that doesn't change at all or full video, audio on. And I think future will do, some will be assigned to what you describe, where there's some AI in the survey that does some probing. Some will be assigned to just audio, so no video. Will that make it easier for people to complete it? So I think what it was maybe once a dichotomy is now such a spectrum of different options that can be chosen. They didn't know ahead of time, so they had to click to begin the research opportunity, and then they were told, you are now going to be directed to an AI moderated interview. So by design, they didn't, whereas traditionally they would know ahead of time, like when we work with Outset for sort of methodological research, they would know, hey, this is going to be an AI moderated interview, make sure you're home and not on the bus. So I think you're raising an important point. Yeah, I'll start and then please chime in. I do think it's important they know, when you think about the average panelist, it's really important not to have, we strive representative sample, not professional survey takers sitting at home taking surveys all day. So when you think about someone, it could be someone on the commute, on the subway, waiting in a restaurant. And so it's important to know, hey, this is going to be a survey, or this is something, hey, you want to be home and have your camera ready to go. So I do think it's important to communicate it just when thinking about the respondent experience.
Within the platform, once they start the interview, it says AI interviewer. And I think that there actually is some, new regulation in California in particular that you do have to share if you are talking to an AI. It's unclear if this use case applies to that, but I think the spirit of that regulation, I think, is fair, right? Which is like, people should know that it's an AI system that they're talking to. I think that's a reasonable thing, but we've also I don't think we gain a lot by deceiving or tricking people into what it is, or just saying it's a survey, but then these it's weirdly talking to you, it knows what you just said. I actually think that, and we've done studies on this, but ultimately, yeah, people may have their misgivings about AI as a broad concept, but when you're taking a survey and that survey repeats back what you said, and thanks for sharing, and tell me more, it's generally quite positive whether or not it's AI doing it, right? So I actually think we've always taken the stance, we don't give it an avatar. There's no this is the human-like figure.
Face.
It's not my face, an AI version of my face asking you questions. It's text and a voice if you want it. And I think we're very open about this as AI, and I think we've seen positive results from that.
Thank you.
Maybe one more question. I think that's right, that there's a lot of accessibility benefits so it's both you can have it come as text or as voice. You can input as text or as voice. You can kind of, effectively, as AI helps us be more multimodal in the way we interact with technology, that is, I think, a very good thing for people who have different abilities around technology. Cool. Actually, we just got the 5-minute sign. So one more question, what we have time for. Any others?
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for coming.